No effective storyteller begins his narrative at the climax. Otherwise, the listener would see that a great spectacle is taking place, but he would not know what the events mean or how it connects to his life. It stands to reason, therefore, that if we are to do the Christmas story any justice, we must start at the beginning. At the beginning of the creation of the world, God placed the first man and first woman in a cosmic garden by the name of Eden. Eden was not simply a place with nice trees, but a cosmic mountain, a realm in which the master of the universe came down in the cool of the afternoon to fellowship with the sons of men. The Holy Scriptures tell us that the first man, Adam, was naked with the innocence of a child, a concept which on the surface seems strange to those living in the 21st century. We must remember that Adam was a perfect man, without sin. No clothing was therefore necessary. Just as a dog's fur, a fish's scales, and a peacock's feathers provide these creatures with a natural splendor, man in creation lacked nothing. God gave the first human beings the task of civilizing the earth, to replicate the splendor of the garden throughout the entire earth.
So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over every living thing that moves on the earth."
In the midst of the garden were two trees. The first was the tree of life, which allowed those who ate its fruit to live forever. God is the author of life. The true importance of the first tree was to show that man must continuously fellowship with God to live. To fellowship with God means that one must walk in the ways of righteousness, justice, integrity, wisdom, in knowledge of God, discretion, and an understanding of God's ways. This is true wisdom, the foundational principles for a complete life and an ordered society. A poor man in this world who has this relationship with God is rich. A rich man who does not know God is like a bottomless pit. There was another tree in the garden that contained knowledge. Knowledge of good things, agriculture, medicine, animal husbandry, philosophy, political science, architecture, craftsmanship, literature, astronomy, textile manufacturing, music, and a range of other skills about the universe. The tree also contained knowledge of evil things, methods of manipulating nature and people through sorcery and magic, techniques for consulting with the demonic, knowledge of weaponry and engines of destruction, tools of seduction and human manipulation, mind-altering drugs, poisons, manipulation of our environmental systems, secrets of tapping into power from higher beings to subvert the natural order of the world. Adam was allowed to eat from any tree in the garden except the tree of knowledge. God's desire was never for men to remain in ignorance. There must be something in place that precedes the intellectual advancements of the human race. This is a fear of God. A man who fears God uses his wisdom to aid his fellow man. A knowledgeable man who does not fear God creates tools that aid human destruction. The God of the universe is a sovereign king from which all good things flow. To disobey God, therefore, the source of every good thing, is to embrace evil and self-destruction. The first humans lived in Eden in a state of rest and security under God's order. Those days, however, would not last. A serpentine supernatural being called the Shining One, commonly known as the Devil, presented the first man and woman the promise of autonomy, to disregard the natural order, to break God's commandment to not eat from the tree of knowledge, to be their own God, having great knowledge of many things, good and evil, but without God's law to restrain them.
No, you will not surely die. You will be enlightened to decide for yourself what is good and evil. No religion, no rules, no regulations to tie you down. You can be your own boss.
The first man and woman ate the forbidden fruit. They sinned against God, and their perfect nature became tainted. As previously mentioned, a peacock or a bear does not require clothing. But now that man had sinned against God, they became uncomfortable in their nakedness and sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. Adam died on that day. Like a branch severed from the vine, he was expelled from the garden, separated from God, the source of all life. All of mankind today are descendants from Adam and are born in this condition, dead in their sins and separated from God. Listen to what the Holy Oracles say about the human condition.
Once you were dead because of your disobedience and your many sins. You used to live in sin, just like the rest of the world, obeying the devil, the commander of the powers in the unseen world. He is the spirit at work in the hearts of those who refuse to obey God. All of us used to live that way, following the passionate desires and inclinations of our sinful nature. By our very nature, we are subject to God's anger, just like everyone else.
Not only is mankind separated from God, every man is a slave to his desires, desires which are selfish in nature and opposed to the good, thoughts and inclinations which are governed by the powers of the unseen world. The world does not understand a man who possesses the desire to shed blood. Our experts invoke psychological motives, parenting, education, poverty, social inequity, and many other factors. The reality is that the human bent towards deviant behaviors continue to manifest even when the perfect conditions are present. God understands man's nature because he made them, and through the prophets he tells us what is in each of us, and consequently the problem with this world. All men are dead in their sins and separated from God. There's a common objection to this type of idea, which is as follows.
Aren't you being a little uptight, using your religion to condemn people's fun?
Let us use our imagination to answer this objection. Picture a team of scientists at the University of the West Indies. People with incredible minds that built a device which can transport Trinidadians to the moon. The team also built special spacesuits which will allow regular persons to live in the moon's atmosphere. Those who designed the suit are likely to provide certain stipulations for how the suit should or should not be used. The suit should not be used for long hours without being charged from the source. High-speed activities and quick movements should be avoided. Users should avoid excess solar radiation on open lunar areas, and follow decompression procedures for moving to low-pressure environments. Not following the stipulations can result in a range of conditions which include radiation poisoning, barotrauma, hypoxia, ebulism, etc., all of which possess high fatality rates. The designers are not attempting to ruin the fun of the explorers. There's a right use for the suit, a kind of use that will allow persons to remain in the environment, and there's a wrong one. Similarly, the human body is sacred. It is a temple in which the spirit of man dwells. There is the right use of the body, which allows persons to live in sacred space, the presence of God. There is also the wrong use, which contaminates and puts those who are living in God's presence in danger of death. Just as the atmosphere of the moon consumes those who are not adapted to the environment, the God of the Bible, the true God, is holy and will naturally consume anything which is impure in his presence. So long as Adam walks in the righteousness of God, living in Eden is possible. Now that Adam has sinned and became corrupt, living in God's presence on his holy mountain became an impossibility. Adam's physical death, the destruction of his body, was deferred through an act of God. The life of an animal was taken in place of Adam's life, and our earliest ancestors were clothed in animal skins. The first men escaped death, but were driven out of the garden from the presence of God. Now, to understand the concept of an animal sacrifice, we can draw an analogy from something familiar, a banking institution. When someone takes out a loan, the bank marks some of the debtor's personal possessions as collateral. A person's collateral is often at a lower value than the loan for clear reasons. If a person's items could be sold for money of equal value, there would be no need for the debtor to take a loan. Adam, a sinless man, sinned against God, a transgression punishable by death. An animal is provided in Adam's place as collateral, providing a temporary reprieve against God's wrath. The debt placed upon mankind, however, remains. Since the woman was used by Satan to lead her husband astray, the God of heaven, to whom all creation belongs, determined that the woman would be a key instrument in its redemption. Since Adam, the first man and leader of humanity, brought a curse to the earth, it was necessary for a new man, a second Adam, so to speak, one as spotless as the first, to redeem the sons of men. And so, a prophecy of doom was given to the serpent to show that the creature's plans to destroy us and keep us in bondage will ultimately fail.
And I will make enemies of you and the woman, and of your offspring and her descendant. He shall bruise you on the head, and you shall bruise him on the heel.
The prophecy stipulates that one of the woman's descendants, a man-child, will reverse the curse, to pull man out of the natural bent of his sinful ways, from the power of the serpent, to return once again to the presence of the Creator of the universe, the source of life. From that day forward, humanity looked forward to a Savior, a deliverer to come from the woman's line, one sent by God with great power from on high, the Christ. It is with this knowledge that the first woman gave birth to a son in the likeness of Adam named Seth, which means appointed. It tells us that there is an appointed day in history in which a sinless human, like Adam on the day he was made, a Savior, will be born.
God has appointed me another child in the place of Abel, because Cain killed him.